Jim, let's get a few questions. This was sent via the Cult of Cornette Facebook group by Dallas Nelson. What does Jim think of the career of Abyss? He definitely had a lot of highs and lows over the years. Where would Jim rank him as far as monster gimmick goes?
Oh, good Lord. I'm not going to answer even attempt to answer that question, because then we'd have to go back. Well, Monster Heel, let's start with Man Mountain Dean, whatever the but no, I thought he was a tremendous talent. I thought the Abyss gimmick was a good gimmick. The first time that I saw him was on the Ring of Honor shows he was doing before I ever went to TNA, or maybe before he went to TNA. One or the other. When I first started with Ring of Honor, was that 2004 or 5-ish, whatever, making a few shots. But I thought for his size, he could move well, and he had fluidity. And his shit was safe, at least to other people. The big backbreakers and the big spinning Bubba Slam, the Black Hole Slam, and, a very nice guy. And I think I've told this story before, but it's been several years at least. But the problem became that I think he thought very highly of Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, as did we all. Sometimes people thought the Abyss gimmick with that mask was kind of a Mankindish thing, but since Abyss's style was totally different, that didn't bother me. But what he did was he made it to TNA and was making good money and was working with legitimate professionals in the same company with Sting and Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett, etc. He couldn't get out of the outlaw indie garbage match bullshit mindset. That he wanted to have the thumbtacks and he wanted to have the Monsters Ball match. And one time when they brought, goddamn, what was his name? From Puerto Rico, Judas Messias, who was another name in Puerto Rico, but he was a Puerto Rican talent that came from under the ring, dumped out a bag of broken glass, and was slicing up Abyss's arms in the fucking studio at Universal Studios in Orlando with all the park goers and the kids. And Abyss was blading his fucking arms. And you could tell that he was really cut. You didn't necessarily know how it was happening, but it was great. And I'm like, what the fuck? If we don't get kicked off Spike TV, we might get kicked out of Universal, but why would you do this anyway? The fans were just sitting there going, ugh. Because it was so indie garbage wrestling bullshit. And at one point, they gave Abyss, I think it was 6 months, it was an extended period of time off television because he'd been taking bumps off the stage. He had been thrown into thumbtacks. His arms were carved up with broken glass, all this barbed wire bullshit. There was nothing left to do to him. But Jeff and Dutch, everybody liked him so much, and there was a talent in there. And, of course, they were letting him do too much, but he would do too much in the parameters they gave him. So they gave him time off television to refresh him and bring him back new. And I swear to God, it was either the first or second TV taping after they'd brought him back fresh from the break that he had, that somebody threw him off the stage through a table while it was on fucking fire. And he caught fire a little bit in the process. And he would always say, well, what'd you think? After I said, I think you fucking didn't learn anything. I think, what the fuck? They'd give you time off so you can come back fresh because you had done everything to yourself, and now you've just set yourself on fucking fire. So he was very savant-like in that he could remember the order of a match. That's when I saw guys start actually calling the entire match before they got in the ring, where they'd call it practically move for move. I'm like, how the fuck do they remember this shit? When did this start? But he can remember all this shit. He can remember other people's shit. He became an agent. But I think in another company besides TNA, because he was a victim of Shit Stains Creative, who liked all that kind of shit and encouraged him to do more of it so they can have last rites matches and fucking cool visuals, because Russo thought he was going to win some kind of Emmy back then. In the WWE, with a push and being produced as a modern day type of Mankind, his work in the ring physically, he could have been a huge fucking star. And then I guess they made him a twin brother of himself, and he became a fucking lawyer or an accountant or a goddamn stockbroker or something. And it, you know, that's pretty much it for Abyss, unfortunately. But now he's behind the scenes somewhere doing something. I forget where he is.
WWE.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, maybe now he's calmed down. He stabbed Sting in the face.
Oh, I'll let you go to your thing before you get to my question. What did he do to Sting?
He stabbed Sting in the face. Because they had that goofy, because Russo not only went on he thought he could book wrestling, but then he went on the religious delusion where he thought he's a Christian, right? And he's born again and he praises God and Allah and all the other people up there in the sky on the clouds. And so and because Sting is Christian, we were looking everywhere for half of our main events at a goddamn pay-per-view one time on location, not even in Orlando. It might have been St. Louis. Me and Dutch looking everywhere. Where's the goddamn main event? Where's all of them? They were having a religious service with Craig Jenkins and Sting and a bunch of the a bunch of the religious folks up in some meeting room in the building at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon with 7 o'clock bell time for a pay-per-view. I said, can they fucking go to church in the morning on their own time? We got to lay this shit out, and it don't make any sense anyway. But nevertheless, so they have the last rites match where Sting versus Abyss, and they've got the ring tricked out where they have fake Liberace candelabras on the corner ring posts, and they had the platform. I think they even had a fog machine where you would have to put your opponent on the platform and then he would be raised to heaven. That'd be how you'd win the match. And the guy had the last rites. I don't fucking know. That's where the Fire Russo chant started. And that's when goddamn Russo managed to convince Dixie that the Fire Russo chants were about shit that he didn't have the idea of. You think Dutch Mantell said, let's get some candelabras on the corner posts and do a religious themed match where the guy that loses descends to heaven? You fucking lying sack of shit.
Ascends, not descends.
Well, no, this was a descent. So anyway, they worked a fucking spot where Sting shoots Abyss into the fucking corner, and he's going to give him the stinger splash, and Abyss reaches back and grabs the candelabra, and when here comes Sting, he's going to whack him over the head with it. Well, that cheap plastic prop bullshit that they got, it broke and it stabbed Sting in the face. It like a puncture wound and a cut. I can't remember which side of his eye it was on, but it was like maybe a third of an inch from his fucking eye. And as soon as and then they're chanting Fire Russo in the crowd. And then when Sting got back, first thing he did was go to the mirror to find out how disfigured he would be and whether or not that he had indeed lost his eye, because the blood he couldn't fucking see. Oh, because this fucking moron is, let's have a last rites match. I don't know how any of this works, and I've never done it, but I'll tell other people to do it, and we can put their fucking eyes out. What were we talking about?
I was going to ask you, are you surprised that Abyss is a producer for WWE?
Well, no, because as I said, he's a nice guy, and he worked his ass off or was dedicated to anything that you would give him to do, and he wanted to do well, and he can remember move after move like one of these mathematical savants. He worked with a lot of guys that had great psychology. And of course, this is 15 years ago I'm talking about, when he was lighting himself on fire and sticking thumbtacks in himself on a regular basis. So maybe he calmed down. I'm happy for him.